The biggest mistake with WD-40 is not that people use it too little. It is that people spray it everywhere without understanding what it actually does. That single habit quietly destroys rubber, contaminates sensitive parts, attracts dirt into places it should never be, and slowly creates repair bills most drivers never connect back to the original mistake. A lot of people think WD-40 is some kind of miracle liquid that fixes everything in a car. That belief is exactly why so many drivers end up paying thousands later. And the crazy part is that the same can that causes damage in the wrong place can save you huge amounts of money when used correctly. That is the hidden difference most people never learn. Mechanics see these mistakes constantly because drivers copy random tricks online without understanding why some work and others become disasters months later. Once you understand where WD-40 actually helps and where it absolutely should never go, you start preventing expensive problems before they even begin. One of the biggest hidden money savers starts with something almost every driver ignores until it becomes a nightmare: rusted bolts. People usually attack them with force. They grab a wrench, pull harder, slip, strip the bolt, snap the head off, and suddenly a simple repair becomes a painful, expensive project. But the real reason bolts become impossible to remove is because corrosion locks the threads together over time like glue. This is where WD-40 actually becomes incredibly useful. A proper application gives the liquid time to creep into tiny gaps inside the threads and weaken the rust from the inside. The mistake people make is spraying and immediately trying again 2 seconds later. That completely ruins the point. When you let it work correctly, bolts that felt permanently frozen suddenly start moving with far less effort. And this matters more than people realize, because a broken fastener can turn a cheap maintenance job into hours of drilling, extraction, replacement parts, and frustration. Saving the bolt often saves the entire repair.
But the really dangerous problems are usually not visible at all. Moisture inside electrical systems quietly destroys cars from the inside long before any warning light appears. One small connector gets damp. Corrosion slowly forms. Resistance changes. Sensors start acting strangely. Then random electrical problems begin appearing that seem completely unrelated. Drivers waste huge amounts of money chasing mysterious faults because they never realize moisture was the original cause. This is where the original purpose of WD-40 becomes important. The product was designed to displace water, and when used carefully on clean, disconnected connectors, it can help create a protective barrier against moisture buildup. The key word is carefully. Flooding connectors carelessly is not intelligence. A light protective application on the correct areas is enough. What makes this so valuable is that electrical problems are some of the most frustrating and expensive issues modern cars develop. They hide, spread slowly, and often require long diagnostic work. Preventing corrosion early is far cheaper than repairing damaged wiring later. Another area where drivers accidentally create damage is with rubber seals around doors and windows. Most people do not pay attention until winter arrives and the doors suddenly stick shut like they are glued closed. By that point, the rubber's already drying out, hardening, and beginning to crack. Once seals lose flexibility, moisture starts entering the cabin. Carpets stay damp, windows fog more easily, and hidden mold can begin forming underneath interior panels. Even worse, water can eventually reach wiring hidden inside doors and flooring. Many drivers think the annoyance is just the stuck door itself, but the real danger is the long-term water intrusion that follows. This is why using the correct protective treatment matters so much. Silicone-based protection works far better for rubble because it helps maintain flexibility without damaging the material.
That tiny detail changes everything. Properly protected seals stay softer, resist freezing, and keep moisture outside where it belongs. A few seconds of prevention can stop years of hidden deterioration inside the vehicle. Now here is where things become interesting, because some of the most satisfying uses of WD-40 are also the safest when done properly. Sticky tree sap, road tar, and stubborn grime slowly attack paint if left sitting too long. Drivers often ignore these spots because they seem harmless at first. Then weeks later, the clear coat starts looking dull, discolored, or rough. What most people do next makes the situation even worse.
They scrub aggressively, scratching the surface and damaging the finish even more. But when WD-40 is used carefully on these sticky contaminants, it can soften them enough to allow gentle removal without harsh scraping. The important part is not rushing and not leaving residue sitting on the paint afterward. Clean the contamination carefully, wash the area properly, and protect the finish again. That process can save the paint from permanent damage and avoid expensive correction work later. Small contamination always becomes harder and more destructive the longer it stays attached to the surface. A lot of people also underestimate how quickly neglected metal surfaces make a car feel older and more worn out. Chrome trim, exposed hardware, metal brackets, and similar surfaces collect road film, moisture stains, and grime constantly. Drivers slowly get used to the dirty appearance and stop noticing how dull everything has become. But one of the easiest visual improvements comes from carefully cleaning these surfaces before corrosion fully develops. WD-40 can help loosen grime and restore a cleaner appearance on certain metal parts without aggressive polishing. Suddenly, old trim looks brighter again, and neglected surfaces start looking maintained instead of abandoned. This matters because appearance is often the first warning sign of deeper neglect. When metal surfaces are always dirty, rust spreads unnoticed underneath. When surfaces stay cleaner, early problems become easier to spot before they turn serious.
That is why smart maintenance is rarely about dramatic repairs. It is usually about catching small deterioration early, while solutions are still cheap and simple. Now, we need to talk about the mistake that causes some of the worst damage, because this is where overconfidence destroys cars. People start believing WD-40 can replace products specifically designed for completely different systems. One of the worst examples is brakes. Some drivers hear squeaking, see surface rust, or notice dirty brake components and think spraying lubricant onto the area will solve the issue. That logic is incredibly dangerous because brakes rely entirely on controlled friction. The moment oily residue contaminates pads or rotors, braking performance can drop dramatically. Worse, the residue can soak into brake materials and permanently ruin them. Damage can also spread into seals and nearby rubber components that were never designed to contact those chemicals. Suddenly, what started as a tiny noise becomes a full brake repair. This is why dedicated brake cleaners exist. They remove contamination without leaving slippery residue behind. Brakes are not an area for experiments, shortcuts, or random sprays. One careless decision there can create consequences far beyond money. The same misunderstanding becomes even more destructive when people treat WD-40 like engine oil or internal engine treatment. This sounds ridiculous until you realize how many drivers actually try it after hearing bad advice online. They assume anything slippery must help lubrication. But engines operate under extreme heat and pressure that require specially engineered oil designed specifically for those conditions. WD-40 is not built for that environment at all. It evaporates differently, behaves differently under heat, and cannot provide the protection engine internals require.
Using it improperly inside an engine can increase wear, reduce proper lubrication, and create catastrophic mechanical failure. The scary part is that these mistakes often do not destroy the engine immediately. Damage builds gradually until something suddenly fails. That delayed effect tricks people into believing the shortcut worked, when it was actually creating long-term harm the entire time. Understanding what a product is designed for matters more than any viral hack ever will. The real secret behind saving money with WD-40 is not spraying more of it. The secret is understanding systems. Moisture control matters for electrical components. Corrosion protection matters for bolts and exposed metal. Rubber needs dedicated care to stay flexible. Paint contamination should be removed gently before permanent damage forms. Brake systems require clean friction surfaces. Engines require proper lubricants built for extreme conditions. Once you understand that logic, you stop treating one can like magic and start using products intelligently instead. That single mindset shift changes everything because it prevents the tiny mistakes that quietly become massive repair bills later. Most expensive car problems do not appear overnight.
They begin as small, ignored issues, bad maintenance habits, or incorrect shortcuts that slowly create bigger failures over time. That is why the smartest drivers are usually not the people obsessing over expensive upgrades or flashy modifications.
They are the people who understand prevention. They know the difference between protecting a part and contaminating it. They know when a simple treatment saves money and when the wrong product quietly destroys materials from the inside. That is the hidden knowledge most people never learn until after paying for repairs themselves. Used correctly, WD-40 can absolutely help extend the life of parts, loosen corrosion before it becomes severe, protect against moisture, and prevent expensive headaches later. Used carelessly, it becomes the exact reason those headaches start in the first place. And once you understand that difference, you stop following random hacks blindly and start making decisions that actually protect the car long term.